Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me. It is webinar time. Great. My name's Andy Gilbert and I am your host. I am the Managing Director of M.A.D Thinking. M.A.D is a consultancy for change and business improvement. We have been around for nearly 28 years. So we've worked around the world in 44 different countries with 468 different organizations, I believe it is now. So let's just give you a little bit of an insight about who we are, and then we'll focus on what we're doing. You can see here that our whole purpose in the world is to improve your world through better thinking. That's it. And today we're going to be looking at helping you really learn and apply some practical tools, tips, and real practical things that you can immediately apply to help yourself, to help your team, and help the wider world. We use a lot of clever technology. I'll introduce you hopefully a little bit later to some of that. And we're driven by being, a catalyst for 1,000 humanitarian and social impact projects. That's what we exist. We are a B Corporation, which means that we balance purpose and profit. And in fact, actually, as a thank you for attending today, what we're going to do is I'm just going to invite you to scan this QR code, because we have a philosophy in our business that when good things happen, then we do good. When good, then good. And it's good that you are here with me today. So what we will do is we will make a micro donation on your behalf to a charitable cause around the world. So if you just take a moment, scan that. When you've done that, if you could just please put a yes into the chat, I'll know that you've done that. And by the way, the other thing that we do is we have raffle prizes and draws today. And every time that you interact with me, then what will happen is you get a free raffle ticket and a chance to win an amazing prize. And today's prize is a 4-day training program. So if you like what we're covering today and you want to learn how to apply the tools and techniques, you get a chance to do that. Okay, so I've got lots of yeses coming into my chat box. So thank you very much. Let's move on. Now, what I'd really like to know that will be helpful for me is what is your current level of knowledge and skills? And this enables me to just pitch my examples at the right level. So I'm going to share a quick poll with you here. Let me just launch that. Okay. So if you could choose one of those. Oh, okay. Let's just see. So it's looking like I've got about just over 60% have got no experience of the M.A.D methodology at all. That is absolutely fine. Relax about that. Welcome to your first session. I know we've got people joining us from all around the world today, and people are joining even as I speak, because I can see the numbers going up here. I just should say that M.A.D stands for Go Make a Difference. It is a rallying call for change, for improvement. It is not about staying the same. So yeah, just around 60%, 29% have been referred by a colleague, 14% have attended a M.A.D webinar before, welcome back. 13% have watched my TEDx talk. If you haven't seen that, it's 17 minutes. Only 7% have read at least one of my books, and I've got about 20% of people have completed at least one day of M.A.D training. Okay, right, I'm going to end the poll there. Thank you very much. Okay, let me get that back. Right, so what are we going to be covering today? This is our agenda for today. We are going to be looking in sections 3 ways to stretch your thinking, to think bigger. Then we're going to look at 3 practical things that you can do to help yourself and your team to think better. I'm going to introduce you to a couple of very simple practical models, and I've got a nice little probability exercise just to test where you are on things at the moment with a couple of live projects, work related and non-work related. And then we're going to just look at thinking bolder, and I'll introduce you to 3 simple things that you can do to think bolder. We'll have questions and answers as we go along. So if you want to look at the, I'm sure you know how this works now, go into the questions. Questions at any stage are good. Please ask them, and they will appear in front of me just in this screen. If you see my head go this way, you know that I have a different monitor here, and this is where the chat happens. And this is an interactive session. So what we're going to be looking at then is when I ask questions, you give me some answers and I can read them. Great. Let's have a look at which describes your current role. Okay, here we go. Current role. Let's see what level we have. Okay. So today we have, I always wait till about 80% of people have completed. We'll always have the odd one that's nipped out for a cup of tea or something. So today, let's just stop that there. 33%, 31% executive leaders, 13% functional leaders, 13% team leaders, 6% project leaders, 31% consultants or small business leaders, and 6% not a leader but curious about it. Well, welcome, you're in the right place. Okay, so quite a lot of senior leadership on today. So I will pitch some examples at that level as well. So, thinking bigger. Are you ready for it? Okay. If we're ready for it, let's go. I'm going to introduce you to a model that I developed working many years ago when I was consulting with 3M and studying the way that their leaders thought. And we call it the thinking effectiveness model. And it's comprised of 4 elements. Okay, so think about this. When we think inside our heads, we do 4 things. Sometimes these things are really helpful, and sometimes these things can hinder our progress. One of the things that we do is we talk to ourselves in our heads. And when we talk to ourselves in our head, we do 2 things predominantly. We talk in statements. For example, the time is now X, or we talk in questions. What time is it at the moment? Okay. So when we think to ourselves in statements and questions, by changing the question or changing the statement in our head, right, we will start to think differently. So let's go for a little example here, and we're going to do some what we call 2 possibility thinking exercises, each of which last 60 seconds. So I'm going to give you a topic, and when I give you this topic, I'm going to invite you to write down as many answers as you can in 60 seconds in the chat, okay? So let's suppose that we are looking to raise some money for our favorite charity, whatever that is. And we set ourselves a modest fundraising goal of, say, £100, $100, 100 units of whatever currency it is that you're working in. And you want to raise that £100. For the next minute, we're just going to consider the question, what could I possibly do to raise £100 for charity? Okay. Now, every time you answer, there's a raffle ticket goes in. So off we go. We're starting now. Okay. I'll read them out as we go along. So advertise my intention, says Claire. Cake sale, a bake sale, Facebook, a raffle, says Natalie. Twitter, ask friends, says Rod. A sponsored event, do a task, link in with other places and ask for donations, sell products. A sponsored walk, Pay it myself, says Jim. Very generous. Ask local businesses, raffles, charity fundraising, £100 target, write a check myself, sponsorship, flyer balloon, company matching, advertise at works, sell items on eBay. We've still got 20 seconds left. Beg on the street, says Jim. It's good. This is just possibility thinking that we're doing at the moment. Complete the task, seek match funding, sponsored work, selling, advertise at work, sell a service, cleaning. Okay, stop where we are. Great. You've got the habit of possibility thinking. Now, let's just imagine that now we're going to change the goal, and the goal is a statement. The goal is now, instead of £100, our goal is now to raise £100,000. Okay, so our question has to change as well. If we set the goal at a different level, the question changes. How could I possibly raise £100,000 for charity? Okay, and off you go. Your time starts now. Okay. A clear strategic plan, says Michelle. I shall seek advice and support from colleagues, says Claire. A gala ball. Okay. Celebrity endorsements. Jim's gone, I'm not going to pay this one myself. Okay. Who are you going to involve then, Jim? Okay. What other areas are there to do this? Sell a house for £5 tickets. Okay. Bank robbery. More celebrity endorsements. By the way, I'm not endorsing these as bank robberies. I'm just saying they're possibilities. Major sponsorship. Okay. Right. Come on, a few more business sponsorship. Okay. Ask Elon Musk to donate. Network within communities, national resources and supports from major companies, Google adverts, bank supports, plan network, speak about. It's going too fast now. Okay, great. Stop. Right. Government funding just snuck in there. Now, why did I do that? Well, A, it was a bit of fun to get you in the mood for possibility thinking about some exercises that come later. But also, I want to make a serious point about if we want to think bigger, we have to set our goals bigger. We have to ask questions that get us to think bigger. Okay? I sometimes do an exercise called 6-foot thinking and 100-foot thinking. You need to think at different levels to get over the wall. All of the things that you said in the very first possibility exercise to raise £100, if you did that, you'd be successful. There's a lot of cakes to sell if we're going to raise 100,000 for that method. But the second exercise, when we were talking about government funding and gala balls and big corporate sponsorship and celebrity endorsement, they would be more likely to get to 100,000, but at the same time, they would definitely guarantee that we actually got the £100. So sometimes notice in meetings or in one-to-one conversations, at what level of thinking are people with the restrictions they might be putting in their statements or enabling themselves or others through better questions. Right, let's move on. If you've got any questions, by the way, about what I'm saying, as you listen to this and engage with it, questions are good. Please put them in the Q&A for me, not in chat, because that goes very quickly. Please put them in the Q&A. Now, let's look at the third thing in this model. Okay. The third thing here is when we think, we don't just think in words. We also think in pictures. And one of the easiest things and the most common things we do is we remember the past. We remember where we've gone, what we've done, people from the past that have helped us, the learning. Now, that could be helpful or it could be hindering. But we don't just think in the past, do we? We also think about the future. So what is it that we're imagining? Is that helpful or is that hindering? So if I was to give you a topic now to think about, let's just do a little exercise. I just want you to notice in your head as you think about this, whether you are thinking in the past or whether you are thinking in the future. Just put P for past or F for future. Here is the subject to think about. 5 seconds. Holidays. Right, put it in. What are you thinking? Are you in the past or are you in the future? Now, interestingly, at this time of year, as Christmas starts to get closer, people start to imagine future. If it was before the summer holidays, they might be imagining there, or you might be looking back. So what I'm seeing here, some people are saying both. That's it. So as you think about holidays, now notice, are you thinking in statements or are you asking yourself questions? Just put an S or a Q in here, okay? What are you mainly thinking in? You got questions about holidays, where am I going? Or are you making statements I'm looking forward to? Okay. So if you can put this in the chat, I'm getting some statements come up in the Q&A. I've got two questions that have come in at the moment. One from Jennifer. What are traits that you have noticed in those that think bigger? Okay, now the traits that I've noticed is two things linked with this model in the context of this is people imagine bigger, okay, and maybe they're more relaxed, maybe they just get that vision and image in their head of what they want, so they've got good imagination skills to think bigger, and also they ask better questions and they ask those questions to the right people. We have a little mantra at M.A.D, excuse me, that ask the right question to the right person at the right time. And if you're involving others with the right questions, imagining and focusing on what you want, I would say those would be the biggest traits that I see. Another question coming from Mason. If using bigger to achieve even smaller objectives, goals, the fear of no longer having the bigger picture is gone. Okay, so that's a statement, not a question. So what we're saying here is we can overcome fear with imagination. Yeah, I agree with that. A helpful imagined future can see into the future and help us to make some small steps, especially when it's paired with good questions. Okay, let's move on, conscious of time. Let's look at the links here in this little model if we want to think effectively. When we ask questions, we could ask questions about the past to bring into our consciousness and make us aware of useful resources, people, occasions, learning that we've had. So look into the past to gain awareness of things that could help you. But also similarly to that, when we're asking questions about the future, we might be wanting to be aware of maybe obstacles, but this is also about understanding the steps to the future, our priorities in the future, how we could possibly get there. So awareness and understanding is the whole purpose of asking those questions. Now, if we look at the link with statements, when we make statements about the past, we might very well say it's a fact. Well, very often it's a belief about the past, particularly if we're talking about ourselves or other people or situations. I believe I am good at something, or I believe I'm not good at something. If we make statements about the future, these are our expectations. Yes, I'm looking forward to this happening in the belief that it will happen. They could be goals. They could be vision statements. Okay, so things that is what is going on in our heads. Now, sometimes we have predominantly hindering thoughts. Sometimes we have predominantly helpful thoughts. Very often, they're a mixture of both. And the real key here is about noticing what's going on in my head, which is a question. I'm saying that problem over and over again. Is that helpful or is it hindering? If it's helpful, keep it. If it's hindering, swap it for something more helpful, a different memory, a different thing that you could imagine, a better question. And we're going to come on, look at questions in quite a lot of depth later. So here's a little summary for you. We've really covered three things so far that you can use practically to help yourself think bigger. Number one, we could imagine bigger. We could state our goals as statements bigger. And we can ask better questions. So if you had to pick just one of those that would help yourself the most, is it number one, Is it number 2 or is it number 3? Just put that in chat now for an extra raffle ticket, and let's see if there's any trend just going here. Okay, number 1, number 2, or number 3? Okay, let's see. Scrolling down. Number 3 is winning by a country mile, asking better questions. You know what? I honestly think that a real key to success is the questions you ask yourself. And have you ever been on the receiving end of a really good question where you've gone, oh, good question? Yeah. So giving the gift of a good question to the right person at the right time, you could call that coaching if you want, just one question to really open their mind up. Right, let's move on. Anything else you've got, please put it in the questions for me. We're now going to go on and thinking better. And I'm going to introduce you to something that I'm probably best well known for. I've written about 20 books. And the book that we're going to be looking at here is called Go Mad, The Art of Making a Difference. And way back in 1998 and 1999, I led a research group of 8 people. And those 8 people were researching other people who had made a difference. Big differences, small differences, work-related differences, non-work-related differences. And we did what was called a phenomenological study. Now, that's the longest word that I'm going to use with you. But what that means is we studied the phenomena of people who made a difference. And our research study basically started with 3 people. One was a 64-year-old who had just completed a PhD. I think that's a bit interesting, an academic achievement at 64. We studied a very successful business person that had grown a very significant business in the UK. And we studied somebody who had achieved an amazing work-life balance, having previously had a very high-pressured, stressful job. And at the end of these interviews, we asked those 3 people to nominate 2 or 3 other people that they knew and give us an introduction. And they put us in contact with those people, and then we interviewed those. So those 3 became 6, those 6 became 10, became 20, became 100. And over a period of 14 months, we spent about 4,000 hours studying people. We went out with film cameras. We went out, this was kind of like before, kind of like just phone everything with you, film everything on your phone. We took a camera crew around with us. We audio recorded lots of interviews. And my job was, as the analyst, was to study what they all had in common. And our research question was based around what is the simplest way of explaining the success principles that people naturally apply when they go make a difference. And this is what I'm going to share with you. What our findings were that there were 7 key principles represented by these bubbles here. Okay, 7 key principles. What we also identified was that they were interconnected with links. So we didn't find a linear process that people were using, but we found 7 things that people were naturally applying, that you have naturally applied whenever you've gone from point A to point B. So let's discover what those are. And to make it fun and make it very real for you, I'm going to encourage you to just copy down these little boxes here and to work with 2 examples. The first example in box A is going to be a work-related difference that you want to make, something that you want to achieve, improve. Maybe it's a current project that's ongoing. Okay, so just pick something as an example, and in the next 10 minutes or so, as I take you through this, you will be able to relate these 7 key principles to that example. And then pick as a contrast a non-work related example, something you want to achieve outside of work. It could be anything, health and fitness. It could be something to do with your house, where you live, whatever it is, something you want to achieve, improve, accelerate. When you've got 2 examples, just put 6 little boxes underneath, and these represent the first 6 of the 7 key principles. And we'll just do a little sum at the end of it, very simple, and to calculate our probability of achieving success. So it's a bit of a diagnostic and a bit of a developmental exercise that we're doing here. Okay, if you're ready, please put yes into chat, and we will start on the first key principle. We're ready? Yes, thank you very much, Natalie and Joe. You were first. Okay, so 7 key principles. We're going to go to key principle number 1. If you want to make a difference, to achieve something, you need a desire or a motivation. We called this the reason why. Now, I know Simon Sinek has popularized this since this research, but that is it. It's about knowing your why, okay? What's your reason for wanting to achieve this? It could be a towards motivation, whether you know what you want, or it could be an away from motivation, where you know what you don't want to happen, okay? So think of it in terms of, I'm going towards my dream job, or I'm going away from my current circumstances because it's so toxic and horrible where I am. Okay, either is okay to start with. So we're really looking at the strength of your reason why. So in box 1 for A, please just do an assessment. And in order to get the most out of this, I'm going to ask you to be really honest with yourself. Okay, there's no prizes or points for getting high scores here. You'll get the most out of this if you're really honest, perhaps even a little tough. And here's the question. If what you have put in box A here is so motivating, it consumes your every waking hour, there is nothing more important in life than this thing that you want to achieve. You want it so, so much with a burning desire that consumes you. That is what a 10 is like. On the other hand, if you're not bothered at all, right, about doing this thing, that's what a 1 is like, or somewhere in between. You decide. So that's box 1, okay? How strong, in comparison to everything else you've got going on, is your desire to do that? And then have a look at box B for your non-work related example. Still in box 1 here, do the same exercise. In all honesty, how strong is my motivation to do this? Okay. When you've done that, please put P2 into the chat and we will move to principle 2. Okay, let's go. Principle 2. This is about clarity. If you're going to go from point A to point B, you need to be really clear about where point B is. So this is about having a defined goal. Now, when we did the research, we found that the most common word used wasn't goal, it was the word thing. But when we researched these people were telling us about the thing that they wanted. Some used the word objective, some used the word target, right? Put all those together, it's about having clearly defined goals. We also identified that there were 4 types of goal. You'll probably be familiar with SMART goals. That's used a lot in business. Now, 8 out of 10 cats can tell me what SMART stands for, okay? But actually, only 2 out of 10 are really, really good at defining those clear goals. So, how clear is your goal? It could be a SMART goal. It could be a vision. Martin Luther King, what did he say? He didn't say, I have a SMART goal, did he? He said, I have a dream that one day. And then he used all his creative imagination to describe it. So this is a really good goal defining technique at that leadership level to get people to follow you and go on a journey. It could be an amazing project vision that you have there. There's another goal defining technique called umbrella goals. Looks like an umbrella, break it down into chunks. And the 4th goal defining technique is the most advanced, called qualitative goals. And qualitative goals are used for emotions, feelings, team morale, team spirit, quality of relationships. It's not for today. that's for another time, or if you want more info on that, the book I'd recommend is the Go Mad About Coaching book, where it's got all the goal defining tools and techniques on there. Okay. For now, all we're going to focus on is to what extent, let me just go through this. Have you got a clear goal? So look at point A and point B, okay, what you've written there, and put it in box 2. Okay, box 2, how clear is your defined goal? If you have absolute clarity in a single sentence written down with an absolute calendar date on it, you deserve a 10. If, on the other hand, it's not written down, you haven't really decided the end date or the specific measures of it, adjust your score accordingly, okay? And that is in box 2. When you've done that, please put in P4. Oh, not P3, we're going to jump. P4 into chat, and then we will jump to there. Okay, here it is. P4, self-belief. Now, why has he gone to P4, you might be saying, as a question in your head, okay? When I wrote the first book, The Art of Making a Difference, I described it as here's principle 1, here's principle 2, here's principle 3, going along the bottom. And we'll come to principle 3 in a second. But when we teach it, we actually teach principle 1, 2, and 4. The problem is 300,000 copies of this book had been printed by then, and I couldn't go back and say, oh, I would really like to change it. So if you read it, it's called principle 4. And that's about self-belief. Remember what we were talking about earlier, those helpful and hindering 4 elements? What you say to yourself, the questions, the statements, the memories, the imagination that's going on there. All of that is going to be combined to say it's either giving me belief or it's giving me doubt in the achievability of my goal. Remember on SMART, the A stands for achievability. That's the achievability line there. How achievable do I believe my goal to be? No, it might be that you haven't got a clear goal. That's fine, relax, okay? What we're going to do is just assess where you are currently, and we're going to use that scale of 1 to 10 again. So let us just go to box 4, just right underneath it, SB for self-belief, and use the seesaw. If you imagine that my Go Mad thinking pen here is the highlighter bit, the high bit is self-belief. And if it's like that, it might be a 6 out of 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, or it could be self-doubt. So 1 is low, 10 is high. Where is your mixture of self-belief versus self-doubt? Okay, just put that number in the box, a scale of 1 to 10. When you've done that, please let me know by putting in P3. We're going to go back and look at P3. Okay. Now, actually, before we do that, let's just go back here. We're just going to do a little pop quiz for an extra raffle ticket. If you were to recall your memory and go back in time to 1996, okay, that's a long time ago. In the summer of 1996, there was a #1 hit single when the Spice Girls burst onto the pop scene. What was the name of their first hit single? Type it in chat for an extra raffle ticket. Here we go. Martin's gone really want. Now the name of it, Jennifer, you were first. Wannabe. Okay. But the catchy bit, you're right, Martin and Rod. You went, tell me what you want. Now that's a clearly defined goal, isn't it? Tell me what you want. What you really want. That is a strong reason why. But the Spice Girls went, tell me what you want, what you really want, zig-a-zig. Now that was very fortunate for me, because if they'd have got, they got the first 2 key principles of the Go Mad framework there. If they'd have gone, I'll tell you what I want, what I really want, and then I'll check my self-belief that it's achievable, that's doing that little internal triangle there. I'd have been screwed, they'd have been onto it. You can only get it on very rare import labels, that record. So anyway, here we go. We're back to, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want, then I'll check my self-belief, and then I'm going to do some possibility thinking and build a plan of priorities. Now, from the research, we identified that there were 10 areas that were generic to any problem and any goal. And you can ask questions about these. So if we start to ask, what possible tasks, what possible resources, possible ways to communicate my goal to other, possible ways to involve people and get their buy-in, possible reasons to involve others, possible obstacles, things that might get in the way, possible risks and implications, possible ways to overcome and minimize those, and possible assumptions, that gives you a really good toolkit. A toolkit that you can use to help yourself and others think. One of my favorite non-books is actually a pack of cards, a pack of M.A.D thinking and coaching cards, where all the red cards are possibility thinking cards. In fact, a bit later we'll come and show you a couple of those, so you can go through those 10 possibility areas for yourself. Once you've done that, you then say, which of these are the most important in relation to my goal? And when you've got those, you can turn them into actions and build an action plan and plan in the time. So we're going to assess 3 things here, okay? In box 3, please just put the 3 P's under it. The first one is possibilities. The second is priorities. That's the most important of your possibilities. And the third one is plan in the time. Now, to put a score in box 3, you're going to need to assess to what extent have you done all 3 of those. If you have really explored those possibilities, thought wider and deeper than normal, and you've identified your priorities, and if I looked in your planner or diary, I would see time set aside for those priorities, then you deserve a high score. If, on the other hand, you haven't done much possibility thinking, you haven't got many priorities, and you haven't put any time aside, adjust your score accordingly. So please do that for box 3. Questions coming from Elsa. What do you mean by plan in the time? Okay, what I mean by plan in the time is we can all have good ideas, possibilities, explore them. We can prioritize, but actually, if you block out time in your diary and say it could be half an hour, I am going to do work on my priorities in that hour. You're planning in the time in your day, in your life, to do the things that are most important. Going back to the example of holidays, I bet you planned time out so nobody books a meeting in if you're going on holiday. So why wouldn't you plan in the time to do the really important things? That's what I mean by that. Okay, I hope that helps. Right. Let's see where we're going next. If you've got any other questions, please put them in the question and answer for me rather than the chat. We are going to look at involve others. 4 of those possibility thinking areas are around involve others. Now, I know, not just from research, but through doing hundreds and thousands of exercises and training sessions with people, the top 3 categories that people think of are as follows. Think of them in your head. If you wanted to involve somebody, right, or a group of people, who would you involve? And I bet you've chosen something from either friends, family, or colleagues. Those are normally the top 3. Why? Because they're in our recent memories. People we live with, people we work with, people we socialize with, right? So it's natural that they're going to come up. But what this principle really means is who in the whole wide world could possibly add value to helping me achieve the goal or to make the difference I want to make. Not only that, but think wider. Who has ever lived that has ever left a legacy, a body of knowledge, a way of learning and doing things? Because I could look back at that. It could be somebody famous. It could be somebody that you've known that's left a legacy there that could help you. But it could also be fictional people. My wife went to see a movie 2 days ago and came back with a great idea. because she'd seen something in a movie that a fictional character had done, and that's it. That's involving others for inspiration. And what I've realized in working around the world in so many different organizations is there are some cultures where people just think the same, groupthink, and they don't think freely enough outside of the box. Different people, who in the world could I possibly involve? We've got a secret project on at the moment about building a community that will launch in the new year for everybody. But this community is all built around the principle of involving others, for people that are really passionate about being a difference maker for themselves, for others, for their team, for their organization and the wider world. And it's about leveraging that. So as a side note, if you're interested in that, just put in TFG. I'm not going to tell you what it stands for, but if you put in TFG, we'll make sure that you get a secret invite for free to that community when it launches. Okay, right, where am I? Involving others. This link between involving others and defining the goal is what is called the buy-in line. So you might have identified who you want to involve, but have you actually influenced and got their buy-in? That's what that's about. So we're going to assess both of those things in box 5. As you think about the two areas that you want to make a difference about, work and non-work related, to what extent are you currently involving as many people that could add value in helping you? And combined with that, to what extent have you gained their buy-in and commitment? Just assess that and put that in box 5. When you've done that, put in P6 into the chat, and we will move on to P6. Great. Principle 6, at the heart of this, is about taking personal responsibility. If you want to be a difference maker, you've got to say, what difference do I want to make? This is down to me. It's my responsibility. I have choices. And what these lines indicate here, I can choose who to involve. I can choose to spend more time doing possibility thinking, prioritizing, choose to break my goal down. I can choose to not do my goal if I want to and not make a difference. I can choose to notice what's going on in my head, my self-belief, the messages I'm giving myself. I can choose to change that if I want. And if I want to, I can choose to park it and not make a difference. That is still a choice. So rather than blaming anyone, because the opposite of personal responsibility is blame, I'm going to blame the weather, blame the government, blame my partner, whatever it is, take responsibility and say, what could I do to move forward and make the difference that I want in my life, to be an impact on my team as a leader, as my project? What's the difference I can make in my organization? That is the heart of making a difference and taking responsibility. So let's just assess that. Box 6, to what extent are you currently taking responsibility for doing the things that need to be done, making the choices that need to be made without blaming anyone or anything? Just use that 1 to 10 scale to assess that. And again, on box B. Now, when you've done that, type in P7, okay? And we will come back to this before we do the little assessment, okay? P7 is all about taking action and measuring results. The first 6 key principles here are about thinking and planning, getting ready to do that. But once we've got our plan and we start moving into that action phase, what we really want to be doing is saying, I'm going to measure my results. Am I on track or am I off track in doing this? If I'm on track, fantastic. Round of applause, pat on the back, keep going. If you're off track, you now have a choice. Go back to personal responsibility. Do I choose to involve different people in different ways to get their buy-in? Do I choose to explore more deeply those possibilities that maybe I skipped over? Do I choose to look at possible ways to overcome obstacles? Do I choose to challenge the assumptions I'm making? Do I choose different priorities? Do I choose to plan in more time in my diary? Maybe I choose to break a big goal down into smaller chunks or redefine my goal. Notice it says there, it doesn't say set goals, it says define goals, because goals can be redefined. Do I choose to look inside my head and do something about the way I'm thinking? Do I choose to have an honest conversation with myself and say, is it worth it? Do I park it? Okay, do those, take action, measure the results, keep going. So this is a continuous improvement methodology until either you achieve your goal or you park it. Okay, so now let's go back and do the calculation. If you've got any questions for me, by the way, about anything to do with this framework, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section. What we're going to do is we are going to calculate the probability of success. The 6 numbers that you put in there, please make sure that there's no zeros in there, because if you multiply anything by a 0, it turns out as a 0. Minimum score 1, highest score 10. And whatever you put in box 1, multiply that number by whatever number you put in box 2, and multiply that by 3, by 4, it's 5, 6, etc. So you're multiplying each digit of your assessment by the next one, and then you're going to put that in the little box at the end. And when you've done that for A, please do it for B. And when you've done it for B, please put both of those scores then into the chat, so I can see what the range of scores are today. There's no points for high or low scores or anything. It's just seeing the range of scores that we've got. Okay? A equals and B equals. And we'll just see if there's a pattern or a trend for what those numbers are. Then I'm going to tell you what those numbers mean. Okay, just make a few notes here. Okay, just wait for a few more scores to come in. Okay. Right. We're going to turn those scores into a percentage. And we're going to do that. And then I'll show you what this means. If you'd have put a 10 in every box, 10 to the power of 6 equals 1 million. So your score is out of 1 million. And that would be 100%, wouldn't it? Now, without using a calculator, the easiest way to calculate your percentage probability is to count 4 digits in from the right-hand side there. So on that million, 1, 2, 3, 4, put the decimal point there, it's there. On this one, count it in, it will be 12.6%. If you've got less than 6 digits, if you've got a 4-digit number, you'll need to put the decimal point right at the front. So it's 0 point there. Okay, just do that for yourself. I'm looking at the scores that come in, and I can tell you that according to the ones I've seen, right, there is 21% score, so 211,000 something. I definitely saw that. And I also saw several scores of below 0%. Okay, so the range seems to be today from about 21% to 0 point something percent. Now, there's good news and not so good news at this point. Is the not so good news is you might be looking at a score that is less than you want. And this is a very quick and a very crude calculation looking at the probability. The reason that we've multiplied these together, not added them, is there is a compounding multiplier effect. In other words, if you're not involving others and you haven't got a clear goal, right, and you're not bothered, etc., it's going to diminish that. The good news is you've just been given some instant feedback. And if you've got a low score in one of those boxes, you can dramatically improve it by going diagnostically and saying, right, let's do some more possibility thinking here. Let's get greater clarity. Let's involve more people or gain their buy-in. All of those things will probably improve your self-belief. Okay. So that's just for now. Let's move on. I said we were going to look at this framework in the context of questions. If you put questions around these, you will have a coaching framework. And my second most popular book is my Go Mad About Coaching book and the coaching cards. Right. What results do you want to achieve? What's the strongest reason? How confident are you? Let's do some possibility thinking, resources, tasks, etc. Which are the most important? Which key stakeholders do we need to involve? How can we get buy-in from that? Okay, what are the key tasks? Who's responsible for what? What's our plan? So you can use this to build plans for yourself, plans for your team, plans for your organization. But what if you've got a problem? Well, we could move from a problem statement into a question. So for example, if one of my problems was I haven't got enough time to write my next book, my question could be, how could I possibly free up time to write my next book? Or what could I possibly do to ensure my book gets written on time? Or who could I possibly involve? And then if I answered it 20 times, we call this the 20 answer technique. All right, I guarantee you will find a way forward, right, with a possible next step to take because you've stretched your brain. Okay, this is a really good possibility thinking. If I could only teach one thing to kids, it would be this, and they would become problem-solving ninjas. Okay, Claire's just put in, if you don't ask the right questions, you don't get the right answers. Absolutely. Right, let's move on to thinking bolder very, very quickly here. Conscious time is going. Let's have a look at some more cards here. What if? What if there were no constraints? What if we had to find a solution? What if our boss would say yes to everything? This is a technique just to suspend current logic for maybe 5 minutes and do some what if scenarios. Let's have a look at another one here. Change a word. Just listen to this. What might be the easiest possible way? What might be the safest possible way? What might be the quickest possible way? What might be the simplest possible way? I'm only changing one word in a question. If I went, what might possibly be the most outrageous way? What might possibly be the most fun way to achieve our goals? Just crafting the right question is really important. So the diamond cards in here are your innovation toolkit for that. Let's just look at two more very quickly. What we got? Queen of Spades. This is to focus your mind. All the black cards focus our mind here. What are you prepared to do differently or sacrifice to achieve your goal? That really focuses your mind in doing that. That tests the strength of your reason why. Are you bold enough to make a public pledge? Okay, to a group, because if you do that, psychologically, you are more likely to act in a consistent manner with the statement or the public pledge that you've just made. So again, all of those can help you to think bolder. Right, this is a summary of what we've covered so far. We're getting to the end. Please put your questions and answers in. We looked at those first three: imagining, defining bigger goals, asking better questions. We've looked at the results framework to diagnose the weaker areas, right? We've looked at the coaching side of it to ask better questions, and that little Jack of Diamonds technique, the 20 answers, turning a problem into a solution. Which of those three, number 4, 5, or 6, is the most helpful for you? Let's just put that in chat. Number 4, 5, or 6. Which of those is the most helpful? Let's see if there's any patterns or trends around that. Ooh, it's split between 2 at the moment. It's fairly evenly split. From just 5 or 6 have just got it between them. What about number 7, 8, and 9? Suspending logic with a what-if scenario. Asking bolder questions, thinking bolder by increasing the strength of your reason why. Which of those is most helpful for you? Number 7 and number 9. Okay, number 7's probably just taking it there. Okay, Q&A time. What questions have you got for me? Please put them into the Q&A now. We're going to do 5 minutes of questions. And what we're going to do is we are going to draw our raffle tickets in 3 or 4 minutes time. And that raffle ticket is going to be for a prize worth £2,950, which is coming to my house for a 4-day training program. Now, you won't get to sleep here, but you will get to meet me and the team and have 4 days of solution-focused thinking. right? And that's based around the coaching book, the change book, the art of making the difference book. But you have to be available on the 5th to the 8th of November. So if you can free up your time to come to Leicestershire in the heart of the UK, we have a lovely farm with 5.5 acres surrounded by natural forest. We're in the middle of a forest. It's an inspirational place. 4 days. That's what we're going to be doing. You're going to get an amazing toolkit. If you wouldn't want that and you're available, you're eligible for the raffle, just put in SFT, Solution Focused Thinking, and one of the people that puts in SFT will win that place. Okay, so give you that, check your diaries. If you want that SFT, that's it. And we'll draw the raffle. Now, the way we draw the raffle then is we pick a number, and the person that has said yes to SFT that is closest to that number of entry will win. So can you please put a number into the chat between 1 and 85? 1 and 85. Number 5 was the first one that I saw. So Jade, who is my right-hand person today, behind the scenes, will count down the 5th person, and you'll keep going, Jade, until you find one of the people that has put SFT, and they will win a place. Okay. Now, the other thing is I've alluded to this platform that we're building is we're also going to be doing a leadership passport. And on social media, you'll start to see some things, and we are going to be looking for some people to test the leadership passport. If you are a leader in an organization that has a team of 5 or more people, I'm going to be looking for 100 people to test for 100 days for free, absolutely everything that I've ever done to get your year off to a perfect start, to have your best year ever. So you've got to be a leader, and you've got to have a team of 5 or more, okay? And in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be selecting 100 leaders for 100 days. So if you want that, just put passport 100 into chat, right? And we'll do that. Right, I'm going to answer some questions here. Let me go on to this. Right. How do you motivate and encourage colleagues to engage in this thinking? Good question, Jennifer. Right. You get them to work for 30, 60 or 90 days on a 90-day Go Mad challenge. Okay. And therefore, by working on something that they're bothered about, something they want to improve, something they want to change, something that will add value to the team or the organization, you engage their reason why. And your passport is going to show you how to do that and introduce 30, 60 and 90-day improvement challenges just here. Okay. And you'll be able to engage people with a wonderful app that will give you as well. Okay. Next one. Rod, there are always lots of goals. So how do you prioritize? You write all your goals down in the list, Rob, and you do an impact analysis. And you say, which of these are going to give me the greatest personal motivation, if they're personal goals, or which will add the greatest value to the organization, and you do an urgent versus important matrix. All right, that's what I would do on that one. Right, there are more questions here. Right. My new role is in training staff teams into defining goals, aims and focuses. What's your best advice on to this? I have 2 of the books mentioned that have amazing information. Go to the goal defining techniques, right, in those books, Mason. They would be the best ones. And I would say get a pack of cards for people and start using it. Now, the app just happens to have all that material in there, and you have the cards in there. Right. Are we ready to draw the results? Jade, have we found a winner? Drum roll, please. Don't know if you can hear that, but I'm banging on the desk. Is the winner of the place on our solution focused thinking program is Jennifer Jarvis from Energy Savings Trust. Wow, says Jennifer. Jennifer, haven't met you, don't know the organisation, love to meet you. I look forward to seeing you at our place. one of the team will be in touch with you in the next, if not this afternoon, by Monday. Okay, that's a promise for you. Right, there's something for everybody. Oh, they've done that. Here's our next live session. Next live session about managing change in November. And then before Christmas, there's another one of these sessions. Okay, I'm doing the same session again. So please invite colleagues, friends, family. We can take up to 500 people on this, and that's it. So if there's any feedback you want to give me for improvement for next time, for Friday the 6th of December, please put it in the chat now. If you've gained benefit out of this, please tell me what benefit you've gained. We'll hold on for another 2 minutes while you do that. Just remind you, if you want access to the passport and you're a leader of a team with more than 5 people in, right, you could be one of those lucky 100, passport 100, put that in. Keep an eye on social media. If you want to connect with me, do so on LinkedIn. There's my email address if you want to talk about working in your organization in some way. Happy to do that. Okay, let's read a few comments out. Hugely helpful, really good to have the diagnostic. Had no idea where to start. Many thanks. You're welcome, Joe. Thanks for clapping, Claire. Many thanks. Great session. Looking forward to the next session. Thank you, Mason, for your questions as well. Okay, there's another 2 questions that have just come in. So John, I'm going to answer your question. It's a lengthy one about embedding this in organizations. I will send you something about that. That's great. Okay, I think we're about out of here, folks. That's it. We always finish on time. You've got a life to lead. I've got an afternoon to do some great coaching with some clients. So have a great weekend. Take care and keep making a difference. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're out of here.